everyone, and welcome to Weathering the Storm, your Orlando Storm podcast. My name is Dakota Wolf, and I am extremely excited to talk to you all about everything Orlando Storm related and just continue giving you all information and updates and rooting for this team as it goes along and we learn more and more about it. Who knows how long it'll be around? Who knows how any of this is going to go? But I'm here with you guys for this, and I'm excited to be a day one fan with all of you and just go through this journey together and figure out what we have here. I think it's an amazing idea to bring a football team to Orlando. Florida is such a hotbed for football. I mean, people love football here. There's football fans everywhere. There's football talent everywhere. And Florida is one of the top football states in the country. I think we can all agree that. Texas, California, and Florida. I think there's no reason why Florida shouldn't have at least one team in the UFL. And even though there are only 8 teams, it just makes so much sense for Florida to have a team, right? And unlike the NFL, this will be the only Florida team in the entire league. And I think that'll allow the Storm to cultivate a pretty powerful fan base. If the UFL in general can take hold and people can gain interest in that while the NFL is in its off season, you can get like Mike Rapole. Sorry if I'm butchering that last name, but he mentioned this, and we'll get into that as the podcast goes on, that one of the strengths of Orlando, it being the central part of Florida and it being the only Florida team in the UFL, is you have Jaguars fans and you have Buccaneers fans and you have Miami Dolphins fans. There's that three-way divide there in the NFL. You can associate with one of those three, but most likely not both, and certainly not all three. The Orlando Storm won't have that problem. You can have a Jaguars fan sitting right next to a Buccaneers fan who's sitting right next to a Dolphins fan. And all three of them can be rooting for that same team. And that's the sort of unity that these fans that are NFL fans won't have. And the same thing goes for college. You have even more diversity there. You have UCF fans, obviously. You have USF fans. You have Florida fans. You have FSU. You have Miami, and so on and so forth. And you can gather all those fans and scoop them up into the Orlando Storm fan base, as long as, the UFL is successful in general. I think we could have something really special here, and I'm really excited to be a part of that with all of you, all the day one fans checking in on the podcast. It's coming out 2 days after the team is announced, and there's almost no information about them, but I'm excited. I'm looking forward to get into it. But before I get into the current information of the team and what we can expect in the future, I kind of want to start with the past. Obviously, the Orlando Storm has no past specific to it. It was just created 2 days ago, but as of October 9th, 2025. But Orlando does have quite of an interesting history with professional professional football teams, and I'd like to go through that to kind of show what we've had and how this kind of compares to that. And I'm not going to go too in detail. I'll slip in some things here and there, but in general, I kind of just want to just give a brief overview over what Orlando has had before. So the first professional football team that Orlando had was referred to as the Florida Blazers. This team did perform well, however, did not really last long. They reached one World Bowl as part of the WFL, the World Football League, and they lost to Birmingham. And after that season, the league was disbanded or folded or whatever you want to call it due to financial issues. Kind of a common theme you'll notice throughout a lot of these teams. And then actually the Orlando Blazers was passed on to a minor league in the late 70s there. So that was the first bit of professional football Orlando had really ever seen. And then our next stop will be with the Orlando Renegades as part of the United States Football League, the USFL. And this team came into fruition in 1985 and was actually a previous team that had been relocated to Orlando, and that team was the Washington Federals. They relocated because of poor attendance. They rebranded from the Washington Federals to the Orlando Renegades, and funny enough, they were coached by Lee Corso, the happy retirement ESPN analyst. If somehow you don't know who Lee Corso is, and they also played at Camping World Stadium. It's kind of similar situation as the last team. They went with the league. The league disbanded or collapsed, folded, whatever, and this team also fell into that. They then tried to move to a fall schedule, but obviously that did not work out. And I apologize. I'm not going to go too in depth on these. It's not really relevant to the Orlando Storm. I just want to give a brief overview here. So then next we'll time travel all the way to 1991. Here we have the Orlando Thunder. This team joined the World League of American Football, the WLAF. And this league was actually backed by the NFL, funny enough. They also played at Camping World Stadium. They reached the World Bowl II, and they also lost, just like the last team, this time to the Sacramento Surge. Similar story here, common theme. The league collapsed, and the team followed suit. Obviously, no league, no team. Seems pretty straightforward. But this one apparently felt a lot more fan support, had a lot stronger attendance, and showed to a lot of people that Orlando could support professional football. It was a city to be taken seriously. That there was potential there for something like this. And this next one is probably the biggest one. Maybe there's some argument for the next one on the list, but I would say this is probably the biggest professional football team that Orlando has ever had. And that would be the Orlando Rage. This team was formed in 2001 as part of the XFL, which many of you know was led by Vince McMahon. A lot less of a family-friendly league, very arena football-ish, a lot of more adult, X-rated type of league. Vince McMahon, obviously the head of the WWE at the time. This team was coached by Galen Hall, which was the former Florida Gators head coach. The team finished with an 8-2 record in the league's only season, and they also played at Camping World Stadium. Pretty much every pro football team in Orlando played at this stadium up until this point. Drew big crowds, over 25,000, but the league in general did not hold the same popularity with its TV ratings. But obviously this team was top of the league and was highly popular in the city of Orlando. But obviously the league fell just as all the others did, and the team went with it. And Orlando actually wouldn't see a team again until 2019, and that team would be the Orlando Apollos, which was part of the Alliance of American Football, the AAF, and was led by well-known coach Steve Spurrier, leading the way. And actually different than all the other teams that had previously played in Orlando, this team played at what is now the Bounce House. Back then it was called Spectrum Stadium, but always been referred to as the Bounce House by the fans, on UCF's campus. And I had never been to a game personally, but man, I feel like that's such a great idea. I love the Bounce House. It's not the most fancy stadium, but just the environment that you can create with that, especially if you could ever get the popularity going. It doesn't have that many seats. It's um, has more seats than a stadium I'll mention later on in this podcast, but um, not anything comparable to an NFL stadium. I think around 40,000 seats, something like that. So, if you can get that decently filled up, you can get a good crowd into it, in however many years. I mean, that's a great stadium. But anyways, enough on that tangent. The Apollos, just like the Rage, were the best team in the league with a 7-1 record this time compared to the 8-2. But unlike all the other professional teams and leagues as well, this league actually ended in the middle of a season. So never got to play a championship game or, win or have anything come from that. But they had a great start and they were quickly, gaining a fan base and felt a lot more like, a college atmosphere because you had it in the college stadium on a college campus. And I think, the hype was there for something special, and sadly that collapsed in on itself. So, it seems like a recurring theme here, right? The leagues kind of run out of money, they're mismanaged or whatever happens, and they just collapse halfway through. And, it seemingly, at least in two straight situations, even though they're 18 years apart, kind of end something abruptly that had a lot of potential. But all that would kind of be ruined with your next team here, which would be the Orlando Guardians. And sadly, this is the one I kept up with the most just due to the time period of recency in which I've decided to, keep up with all these professional teams in Orlando. And, yeah, they were not good. Not good in many facets in terms of the, first of all, success. What was their record here? That 1-9, bottom of the league. Horrible. They also played at Camping World Stadium, but again, maybe this was blown out to be worse than what it actually was. But notoriously, because I guess they didn't have enough attendance and they wanted to look good on the TVs, they got in a bit of heat. No pun intended. Because they took all of the fans and put them into one tight-knit pocket of the stadium, one side of the stadium, and that just so happened to be the side of the stadium where all the sun was beating down directly on them, when they could have been on the other side that was perfectly shaded. But instead, we had them all packed into this side, under the sun, the hot Florida sun. It was not a good look, and obviously the team in general was not a good look. And this team would be discontinued as part of the UFL merger. So the XFL returned, the Guardians were part of the XFL, and then the XFL initiated a merger with the UFL, and this team would be dropped. And who could say we could blame them? I mean, honestly, the team was pitiful, and there was also drama attached to it, and the fan support was not great, considering, and how could you blame the fans at that point? It just wasn't a good look. And that brings us to present day, 2025. Your Orlando Storm, announced primarily by Mike Rapole. Let me make sure. Yeah, Mike Rapole. Announced primarily by Mike Rapole 2 years ago. 2 days ago, I apologize. And I guess that brings us to current day, right? So that was kind of the history of professional sports, professional football in Orlando, outside of just UCF, which has been here for a while now. And brings us to the Orlando Storm. So, like I said, announced 2 days ago by Mike Rapole. And I will say, compared to the other teams, the immediate difference we notice here, and this is kind of more of a league-wide shift, and I think it's a good one. I actually really like it. At first I was skeptical, but I really like it. They will be playing in Inter & Co. Stadium in downtown Orlando. This stadium is shared by the Orlando City SC and the Orlando Pride, some soccer clubs there. And if you don't already know, this stadium is much smaller capacity than anything else for any other professional football team, or even UCF's relatively small stadium compared to other college teams. Um, Only holds about 25,000 seats. And this is kind of a league-wide shift along amongst a bunch of other teams, especially the newer ones, including the Louisville Kings. They have a similar seating capacity. But I think this is a good move, and for a number of reasons. One, it's a new stadium. It's a much more modern stadium than Camping World, which has been around forever, it seems like. And two, I think the smaller seating capacity is a good first step, at least until this league gains more popularity. And it's a reason why I like UCF Stadium so much compared to other big stadiums. Me and a buddy were talking about the University of Kentucky has this huge stadium, like around 80,000 seats. Maybe I'm wrong on that number, but much more seats than Orlando's UCF Stadium has. But the stadium is always half empty. It sounds quiet as a mouse in there because it never sells out. And again, no offense to Kentucky fans. Maybe that's not true. This is a Louisville fan that was telling me this. Maybe he was just hating on Kentucky. I don't know. But the idea makes sense because a lot of times you'll go to a UCF game, and even then, it's not sold out. You still see empty seats. But it looks pretty good because it's a normal capacity. So as this new professional league just starting out with a lot of fans who may be waiting to see how it goes before they get into it, I think it's a lot better of a look and better of an environment to have a smaller seating capacity, around 20-something thousand seats. Even if you only have 10,000 people, it's halfway full. You can get a decent environment going in there compared to another stadium with 60,000, 80,000 seats, 10,000 people. It's not a good look on TV. It's not a good look for anything. Even though, it might not actually be that bad. So that's the first main difference between these other leagues, is that this is the first professional football team, not soccer, like American football team, to play in Inter and Co Stadium. And I love the location. Mike Rapole mentioned this a lot as well. It's really close to downtown, and I think that's a huge advantage, even over UCF Stadium, which is you associate UCF with Orlando, but the stadium is closer to Oviedo than it is in Orlando. It's a very convenient location. It's right there. If you happen to be a tourist just in Orlando, I don't think you're going to want to see, you might not want to see a football game, but you're driving by the stadium, you look up on Google, you see there's a game that, what, are these games on Sundays? I don't know. You see there's a game on the weekend, and, hey, let's go check it out. Let's go see it. It's a nice looking stadium. It's right in downtown, it's convenient. It's walkable, and it's convenient, and I really like it. So I guess that can continue leading us into, the current of the team before we kind of get into what the future for the team and the league might go. There's still not a lot of information, and obviously I'm learning a lot as I go. So I'll be sure to communicate that to you all as I learn it. But here, I guess I just have some notes that I've been taking over the past couple days, reading listening to the press conferences, and just reading some news articles and gathering as much information as I can regarding this team and its future. But I'll just go down the list. So first off, just to explain some things, if you're already a UFL fan of some sort or you're familiar, you might already know this, but I'll go ahead and communicate it anyways, assuming that most of the people listening here are new fans of the Orlando Storm. Unlike the NFL, where each team has its own independent owner. So say the Colts had Jim Irsay, who, rest in peace, he owns the Colts. At some point, I guess his father purchased the Colts with money, and he owned that team. That is his team, and it is his job to hire GMs, and make various business decisions regarding that team. The UFL is not like that, at least not yet. Maybe eventually it'll transition to that. But each team is owned collectively by the same people that own the entirety of the UFL. So whoever owns the UFL is who owns the Orlando Storm. Now, I think there will be a little bit of give and take there. I think certain owners will gravitate more towards specific teams and have more, of an involved process with teams over the others. but I could be wrong in that. But that is generally how it works. So the majority owners of the UFL are Mike Rapole, and we'll mention his name more often than the rest of these guys, and you'll see why. Fox, obviously. Excuse me. ESPN, Redbird Capital, Danny Garcia, who happens to live in Orlando, and The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Obviously, like I said, that model could change as the league stabilizes and grows and gains popularity, and they kind of figure out the level of support here. So, like I said, this group will determine head coach, general manager, and other various decisions, maybe even player and personnel. We don't really know for sure. We'll kind of figure that out as we go. But there is a multi-year deal, so at least a 2-year deal to play at Inter&Co Stadium. As I said before, home of the Orlando City SC and Orlando Pride. Capacity is around 25,000. So the Orlando Storm are joining the UFL alongside the Louisville Kings and the Columbus Aviators. And these 3 teams are replacing the Memphis Showboats, the Michigan Panthers, and the San Antonio Brahmas. And apparently a lot of people are upset about the San Antonio team leaving. If you go look on the UFL Storm page, you'll just see people complaining about that. And just on the UFL page in general, a lot of people are complaining about that. So I guess, I don't know, go complain under the Louisville page. I don't know what you want us to say. I think Orlando, I think Louisville would be a great spot too. But, I'm sorry for the fans there in San Antonio, but yeah, and I did think it was odd that the Michigan Panthers actually made the championship, and they lost. But man, they lost, and then now you're out of the league. That's wild. But I guess that's how it works. So we're coming in. Those 3 teams that we're a part of are replacing those 3 teams that are leaving. As far as I'm aware, it's not direct replacements, right? So we're not immediately taking over for, say, the San Antonio Brahmas, at least to my understanding. Maybe we are, but to my understanding, that's not how it works. We're coming in scratch. We're not taking over their head coach, taking over their GM, and taking their roster of players one for one. It's not like they're relocating here. It's a completely new team. And I'll kind of get into further when I kind of get into the future of the team, how that'll be, how I think that is going to be shaken up. How the players will be determined, the players of the old teams, where those going to go, and all of that. But I guess more simple stuff here. Team's primary colors: purple, orange, and black. Funny enough, Mike Rapole mentioned up on the podium, he added the purple because the stadium had a lot of purple in it. Because of the soccer team that plays there, it's their home stadium. So I thought that was odd. But hey, I mean, if I don't mind the colors. I think the colors are cool, and I really like the logo, and I like the team name. I worry about the jerseys. I don't know how you can make orange and purple work, but I look forward to seeing how they do it. If it were me, I would lean heavy into the black. So you think of the UCF Knights. Obviously, not anymore. They don't have all gold jerseys. It's primarily black, so I would lean into that. I wouldn't do an all orange jersey with some purple on it. I wouldn't do an all purple jersey. Please, for the love of God, do black and do white as your primary colors, and then do the orange and purple accents. That would look amazing. If you do an all orange or an all purple jersey, I'm still rooting for you, but man, I don't see how you can pull that off. I really don't. But yeah, like I said, a hurricane logo with the lightning bolt in the middle. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a storm. So, last bullet point I have here, until I get into the press conference itself. Players will be added to the new teams through free agency, local tryouts, and possibly an expansion draft. So, again, free agency, I would assume it's just like the NFL. Players are not signed to a team. They have their names in free agency, and you can sign those players, assuming that player wants to sign with you over the other offers. Local tryouts, again, pretty self-explanatory. Players that are local to the Orlando/Florida area, Southeast area, whatever. can come try out for the team and grab a roster spot if they're good enough. And an expansion draft. So again, I could be dead wrong on this, but I'm assuming there are 3 teams that are leaving. All those players are now would essentially be free agents, but they're not. They're still on a team, but those teams don't exist. So how I assume it works, all those teams are added into all those players that were on those teams are added into a draft, and now the 3 new teams will choose from those players in a draft, sort of like an NFL, like the NFL draft, like any other draft. You just choose, go one by one and choose the players from those teams. I assume that's how that would work. If it even happens, I don't know. But that could be an option. Either that or all the players are free agents and you just sign like crazy. I mean, I don't think that sounds as good. Or teams just take over entire teams. I don't think that sounds as good either, because then it's really just a relocation it's like a relocation and a rebranding. I mean, so I don't think that's as good. But we'll see. Obviously, I'll keep you all updated as I learn more information and as the league provides more information. This is a very new and exciting process, so I'm excited to be here with you all for it. Up next, though, we have the press conference where Mike Rapoli himself came out and gave a lot of information, and he just seemed, I'll say this, his energy is top notch. He seems like a really cool dude just in general. Obviously, he's a businessman. They're usually really good with their words and getting up in front of a crowd and speaking and selling something, and he's selling the UFL, he's selling the Orlando Storm, and he did a really good job of it. I mean, he seemed, he was funny when he needed to be, and he was charismatic when he needed to be, and he was serious when he needed to be, and he provided information. I mean, it wasn't just all talk. He provided valuable information that we wanted to know, and I mean, he seems like a good guy to be in that position. And again, maybe this is kind of the vibe I got from it. And again, maybe he talks about like this way with all the teams that he goes and speaks to. But he seemed to have a particularly strong connection with Orlando. And I'll get into that as I explain the press conference and my takeaways from it. But if, like I said, in the future we go to a more like NFL type of standardization where there's private owners for each team, and they privately own that team and are in control of it. I don't know. He would assume he'd have to step down from UFL ownership for this, but he seems like someone who would be willing to take ownership of this team. He just seems so excited about Orlando and the team, but I'm sure he seems excited about Louisville, and he seems excited about all the other cities that teams are in. So maybe that's nothing, but yeah. So he saw there was an opportunity in Orlando, Florida, mentioned a lot of things that I mentioned here. The strong football fan base, all of that, all the Jaguars fans and Bucks fans and Dolphins fans, FSU, Miami, Florida, UCF, all those fans coming together and being fans of the Orlando Storm, because there's no conflicting teams there to splinter everybody off. But he kind of started off saying it took 2 years of talking and discussing this with all the partners that I mentioned earlier, ESPN, Redbird, Fox, etc. And then finally, they came to an agreement and got the team here. But he kind of went over his connection with the Orlando area and why he loved it so much and felt such an attachment to it. And he said, excuse me, in 1995, Rapoli's mom actually bought a house in Orlando, so he kind of explained how that kind of has given him a connection to the city for about 30 years now. In 2007, he himself actually bought a house in Orlando, kind of mainly for his parents, but also kind of a little vacation home he could come and visit in. And he actually currently lives in Orlando. So again, these are all the things where I'm saying where it gives him a little bit more connection to this team, and he's an owner. Imagine an owner of the NFL having bias towards a specific team, but hey, whatever, I'll take it. But he currently lives in Orlando, and he went on comparing, just talking up the city a lot, and he went on to compare the theme park attractions in Orlando, the Disney, the Universals, the all of that to back in New York, where I think he's originally from and where he met his wife, to like the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building. I don't know if I would go that far, Um, well, I've never been to New York, so I guess I can't really say, and he would be better to say. But to me, as someone who's lived in Orlando for however many years, a lot of Orlandoans, or whatever you want to call it, the people who live here, don't really claim Disney, don't really claim Universal. Like, yeah, it's there and yeah, it's fun, but a lot of people don't even claim it as Orlando because it's not in our daily life. At least not most working people. Um, so they're there, but they're just little like tourist attractions. They're money pits, and they're fun, but it's not. People assume you live in Orlando. Um, you're just at Disney all the time, and you're at Universal all the time. And I've been to Universal twice and never been to Disney once. So I don't know if I agree with that comparison, but I guess it is. His intent is positive, and I'll take that for what it is. Um, he continuously referred to Orlando as a great and growing city, and specifically a sports city. Again, he couldn't gush enough about UCF and the Orlando Magic and the soccer teams we have here. The Orlando City F. I'm sorry, I don't keep up with soccer, so I have to keep up looking at their name. Orlando City SC and the Orlando Pride. No disrespect to the fans out there. I just haven't kept up with them. Hey, maybe I will. Maybe I'll start looking into them. Maybe I'll get into soccer. That would be a good start, actually. Um, but yeah, bragged a lot about Orlando Magic, UCF Knights, and the soccer teams we have here. And I love that he bragged about UCF. I think a lot of times, and it happened a couple other times in the same press conference with other people speaking. We'll mention all these pro teams, and we'll skip right over UCF. Like, I know it's a college team, but come on. I mean, a lot of college teams people love the college teams more than they love the pro teams, especially in Orlando. I think UCF is a really powerful brand there, and I think I don't like when people just skip over it and don't include it as one of the major sports teams there. I mean, UCF football, it's seen better years for sure than the past couple, but I don't think we should forget how powerful of a brand it can be. But, sorry, this is an Orlando Storm podcast. Let's keep it centered on that. But he went on to mention he's a big fan of UCF football, and he specifically mentioned Scott Frost and Terry Mohajir. And then he kind of kept on gassing up UCF, saying they had the second biggest enrollment short of Arizona or Arizona State or some other school, and he kind of took a dig at them. I won't get into that, but after that, he followed that up with joking about bringing the Jacksonville Jaguars to Orlando to play for a couple seasons. He said he'd call the owner of the team and see what we can work out. And I've only been to 2 NFL stadiums before, Jacksonville being one of them, and maybe that's something. They're gonna have to repair that stadium, right? I mean, I hear nothing but bad things from other people. So I don't know. I mean, I thought it was nice because I've only seen that one in one other stadium, which is also the Washington Commanders Stadium, which is also regarded as one of the worst stadiums. So I've only seen bad stadiums. So to me, they both looked cool. I thought they were nice, but apparently they'll need to go away so that I guess that stadium can get repaired, or certainly not relocate, but. Fixed up and remodeled. And hey, if that could happen, that would be great for the city too. You won't catch me rooting for the Jaguars. I have loyalties elsewhere, but that would be great for the city for sure. But then he followed that up with, he says bringing the team to Orlando was particularly special to him, kind of in a personal kind of way. He said he felt like he kind of adopted this as his city, and again, I can kind of resonate with that a lot. This was the city for me where I kind of moved out on my own and lived in the city by myself with no family, and went to school and put my head down and worked and paid rent and really kind of tried to make a name for myself. So I can really sympathize. Obviously, he's on a whole nother level, billionaire, multi-billionaire, bringing a professional sports team here, but I can resonate with that. And I think it's good. It seems like his heart is in the right place, and I really respect that. It seems like more than just a money grab, which again, he's a businessman. Obviously, that's a top priority is return on investment, but again, it seems like his head and his heart are both in the right place, and I think that's a great sign for not only this team's success, but just the success of the UFL in general. Um, I think that can help the league last, and I really hope it does. But then he went on to explain the name change, obviously, the storm, just based on how many thunderstorms are here, and he joked about how it seems like there's always a thunderstorm around the afternoon or, right around sunset or whatever, and he was at a soccer match or whatever, and it got delayed, and it was supposed to start at 7:30, and it didn't start until 11:30 because of the lightning delays. One strike of lightning, and the game is delayed by 45 minutes, I think. And Lord, if you're a UCF fan in 2025, do you not understand that? I mean, my goodness, that first game, we got, halfway through the first half, and rain delay for 3 hours again. Sorry, UCF tangent. Anyways, so that's why he came up with the name. Pretty self-explanatory. There's storms in Orlando. Big shock, right? Funny enough, there's a WNBA team with that same name, so that kind of sucks. There's already a team with that name, but I like the name. I do like the name. I think it's cool. It's not that I like it, and I like the color scheme. So I think we're off to a pretty good start with the branding so far. But yeah, and again, I kind of harped on this. Then this is where he goes into his all fans from all over Florida can be Storm fans. Now, obviously, if you live in Pensacola, it's going to be kind of hard to make that trip. But, in general, if you're a Jaguars fan, if you're a Dolphins, if you're whatever, like I've said a billion times, you can all be Storm fans because it's the only Florida team that is in that league. And if they can get some popularity going, I mean, that can be serious. I mean, that really can. People underestimate Orlando, but I really think there's potential there. And obviously others see it too with how many times they've tried a pro football team here. They keep coming back, and most of the time it's been successful. Obviously the most recent not so much, but there's desire there. If you do it right and you treat the fans right, I think, and this guy seems like he will. There's a lot of potential. So then he went on to talk about, how important it is to tie in with the local community. Again, that's as they say, it's a green flag. That's a huge green flag. I think maybe he's just saying that because it sounds good, but I think it's very easy to get caught up in the national perspective. What does everyone from everywhere think about us? What is what are the national numbers? What are our viewership numbers? I think more important than any of that is how the local community attaches itself. Because if you're on the TV broadcast and you're looking out and the crowds are empty, but you're getting, it's just not a good look. You need to start from the ground up, and I think the ground is that local community. And you're getting the TV broadcast and you see the stadiums full. Like just the other day, we're at the UCF game and my friend's watching on the TV, and it's right as the game's about to start. And he says the camera is literally bouncing, dude. And to a person watching, and you can hear the crowd cheering on the TV broadcast, and you can hear the UCF Knights on the kickoff. Like, those things matter. And when someone's watching that, wow, that's really cool. And you'll get people who aren't affiliated, especially with this being a new league. A lot of people aren't affiliated with any team. You'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Let me get in on that. And especially if you're local, you can really get in on that. And you can get in while the tickets are cheap and be a part of something special. Everybody wants to be part of something, up and coming and, the next best thing. And this very well could be that. And starting locally, I think, will only contribute to that. Instead of just worrying about, what are the TV ratings? What is the national perspective? Let's focus on Orlando first. And I think you'll see the payoff for that in the long term. And again, he accentuated on that. And that's for each team. For each team's individual local market, it's more important to be tapped into that than it is the overarching national perspective. I guess more just generalized UFL information he kind of got into. I guess this is the part where he kind of started taking questions from the reporters, and I didn't get those reporters' names. I apologize for that. Someone asked about how many games there would be in a season, the playoff structure. 10-game season, 2 playoff games. So unlike the NFL, where you have AFC and NFC, and then within the AFC and NFC you have North, South, East, and West. You just have 10. You just have 10 teams, no conferences, no divisions, and the top four make it. Kind of like a fantasy football type structure. If you're in a 10-person league, the top four teams make it. The bottom four teams don't. It's that simple. So then obviously at that point there's no bye week in the playoffs. You get the 1 versus the 4, then the 2 versus the 3, and then the winner of those 2 games goes to the championship, and then the winner of that game, wins the championship. Very obviously. So then they kind of asked him about the changes to the stadiums and why that was so significant. I kind of explained that earlier, but again, from the way he worded it was, if this league and these teams specifically are just starting out and they're very young, and a lot of fans are kind of in that wait and see mode. So say a game is drawing 10,000 people. That 10,000 people looks a lot better in a 20,000 seated stadium, not only on TV, but for those 10,000 people that are in the stadium, that are a part of that game, and they're looking around and they're seeing how full the seats are, how loud the stadium is, how good the environment is in general. It's a lot better in that type of stadium than it is a 70,000 seat stadium, a huge NFL type stadium that regularly sells out, or Florida Gators stadium. Well, they're probably not selling out right now. Sorry. I don't know. You get the point. A huge stadium that can consistently fill those seats. Let's start with a smaller stadium, and if that thing is selling out and we're running out of tickets and we still have people that want to watch, then we can go that route, and we can, move it to the bounce house. Let's go. Move it to the bounce house. If we get that popular, we can move it to the bounce house. And I'm telling you right now, that place will be bouncing. So if we can get to that point, that's great. But for now, I think this is the right move. Let's start slow, and then we can work our way up. And again, the stadiums are also more modern, so we won't have that problem like freaking Camping World Stadium, where we're having to move everybody to one side of the stadium, and that side of the stadium also happens to be where the sunlight is perfectly melting everyone's face off. Like, one thing about this new stadium that I really like too is it seems like there's good shade. If you're sitting towards the back, it looks like you'll be shaded pretty well. And again, I haven't sat in the stadium yet, so I don't know how much the shade covers, but for sure, if you're sitting in the very back, it looks like the shade is going to be perfectly over top of you, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. And a lot more intimate. Like, everyone's going to be a lot closer together, and I think that's a good thing for establishing a fan culture and a game day environment. So yeah, I mean, I think that's really all we have at this point. That's the end of my notes. But yeah, guys, that's really all the information we have at this point. As soon as more information is brought out, I'll be happy to come in here and make a video and tell you guys all about it, and just provide consistent content updates on this team and foster this fan base and community with each other. I'm really excited about it. I think this team and the city has a lot of potential, and I'm hoping this league holds up and we can build something special here. We have something special with UCF, and I just love football. And I think a lot of people just love football, and they'll look for any reason to keep watching football, and especially in Florida. So I think we have something special here, and however long it lasts, I'll be here, and I look forward to going through this journey with you all. And I appreciate if you've watched this far and you've listened to me ramble on. Thank you, and I look forward to riding this thing out as long as it goes. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.